Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to my channel, Fountain Pen Therapy. The therapy I have for you today is another pen review, but a special pen review. And in many ways, the pen that I will be reviewing for you in just a few minutes is in fact a grail pen. A grail pen in my mind is a pen that has some special meaning, or a grail pen that you hunt for months, years, sometimes even decades, and that you never pull the trigger, either because it's too expensive, either because you don't find the model that you're looking for, etc., etc., etc. But one day it just lands on your lap, or it's possible for you to acquire it for whatever reason. Well, this summer, when I was in Florence, I visited the Pineider store. And one of the things I wanted to do at the Pineider store, amongst other things, is to check out those quill nibs. Famous quill nibs, everybody's talking about them. Are they really worth, the money, etc., etc.? I tried one and I fell in love with it. And I asked the woman there, can you please tell me how much if I just want to buy the nib? She said 352 euros. Just the nib. The pens were 600, 700, 800, 900 euros. I said, my God, I don't think I'll ever get one. And then, come back from vacation. I'm surfing eBay, as we often do. And there it was for $250, $275. La Grande Bellezza is staring at me with a quill nib. I couldn't believe my eyes. Well, folks, you can appreciate that I pulled the trigger immediately. And here it is. That quill nib is an absolutely exquisite and special writing tool. I've got to tell you, I have many soft nibs. I'm still waiting for some pilot soft nibs. So the verdict's still out. But I can certainly tell you that this pen has a nib which is among the softest nibs that I've had the pleasure of using. And we'll do some comparisons in this review. But you know what, folks? Let's take a look at this pen. Here is the Pineider La Grande Bellezza GEMSTONE Yellow Eye Tiger. Stay tuned. Well, here's the pen. Sometimes when you're reviewing a special pen like this, it's really nice to go through some of the history of the brand name, etc., etc. I'm not going to do it this time because I want to spend a little more time on the writing samples and on some of the comparisons of the nibs. I think that to me anyway gives me a lot more pleasure and maybe will be a little more interesting for you. You can always read up on the history of Pineider on their website. They go through it all. But only to say that, Pineider has been around since 1774. It specializes in a lot of other products other than writing instruments. It's got beautiful stationery. It's got beautiful home and office gifts and leather products. So it does a little more than just fountain pens, and they're all luxury made in Italy products. And really, this pen represents one of those luxury products. Now, what does this pen, or where does this pen, how does this pen come? Well, it comes in this beautiful box. So I didn't want to do an unboxing, but I did want to show you how elaborate this box is. Very nice. It's kind of leatherish right here. There it is. It's got kind of a logo there, Pineider, Firenze, 1774. Kind of cushiony here, right here. It's kind of cushiony. Actually, let me just go a little wider so you can get to see the whole thing. And it's got some of those beautiful stationery products, which I'm not going to write on. It's got envelopes, etc., because I want to keep it, just original. That way, whoever inherits this pen will have the original box. Okay, so here it is. That's the way it comes. Very, very nice. I got to tell you, some of the most elaborate boxing that I've seen, in fact. So, nice touch from Pineider. Now, the pen itself. First of all, what struck me about the pen, I always thought that this La Grande Bellezza looked quite a bit like, the Visconti, what is it? I guess the Van Gogh and even the Rembrandt. But it does have, significant differences. So let's look at it. First thing to notice is this beautiful silver trim band that has Pineider on it. The quill. Oh, I see. It's got the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So it's got it written right on the band. Isn't that interesting? I hadn't seen that until now. As a matter of fact, it's nice and small. Pineider. It's got Pineider. It's got a Pineider. I don't know if you can see that Pineider written on the finial. Then there is this beautiful quill-shaped nib, a clip, that was invented by Mr. Del Vecchio when he moved to Pineider. Very springy. It's got a spring mechanism. So very, very nice. I guess he had to bring in a special clip, given that there was a special clip at Visconti where he came from. So there you have it. It's got just a steel or metal button there at the bottom. It's also got nice girth. The cap has that girth, and it kind of slenders down to the barrel, and it's pretty even. Beautiful resin. This is a resin, they call it kind of a gemstone, yellow tiger, or yellow eye tiger, or tiger eye, I guess. When you look at it really close, you appreciate it a little more. Some of that chatoyancy doesn't come out until you really look at it in person. So it's a very, very nice pen. It's got some weight to it, which is really, really nice. So when it in your hands, it just kind of has a certain warmth to it. Very, very nice. Now it opens up 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2. Fooling you. No, it doesn't open up that way, folks. It's got this special magnetic opening. Okay, there you have it. Oh, in my joke, I almost twisted it open. No, I find that this mechanism, very strong magnet, is much nicer than even the Visconti systems, either on, and we'll compare it, the Visconti Homo sapien or the Visconti Van Gogh, to the point where even when you cap it, it's got a nice, very, very strong magnet. Speaking of which, take a look at the quill nib. There it is, folks. Isn't that gorgeous? It's got Pineider on it, and it's 14 karat. It's got those slits there. Other pens have similar slits, but this thing, it is so soft and springy, and we'll take a look at that in just a few minutes. First of all, uncapped, it's got a nice section with that nice flare. So even though it's metal, it's not going in, your fingers are not going anywhere. Very, very comfortable, I've got to tell you. Very comfortable, nice size, nice weight. But as I mentioned to you, it does post with that metal mechanism, and it sits there very nicely. I got to tell you, very, very nicely, well balanced, even posted. Some pens come, totally, you lose all the balance when they post, because it is a big poster. It's not a small one, but it's very, very comfortable. And just the feeling of this resin, I got to tell you, it is just it's got a certain warmth to it. Very, very nice. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Folks, you got to get this pen. If you find it on eBay. Now, I realize why this one costs so much. There's a big difference between some others with the quill nib. It's because I got it with the medium quill nib, and I guess that's less desirable than a fine or an extra fine, because it does give you a very, very thick line. But you know what, folks? I don't care. At that price, I finally have a Pineider quill nib, and for me, it's part of my Grail pen collection. So there you have it. Very, very, very nice. Very, very nice. What else can I show you of interest? It's not a piston filler. It is a cartridge converter. The mechanisms all work very nicely. Look at the thickness of that resin. Very, very nice. High quality Pineider branded converter. It is resin on metal, but I don't see any resin residue on that metal. It just, look at the way it spins. It's perfect. Really, really nice. Now, let's take a look at it inside that cap just to see whether or not... I've not had any problems with drying, and there is a cap. You can see it there. Can you see it? There it is. So, you know what? This thing's not going to dry on us, which is good news. So far, it hasn't. Never had a problem with drying up. Quite the contrary. This nib is a gusher. Needless to say, it's soft. It writes nicely. It's just a very unique writing experience. That's for sure. So there you have it. That's the pen. I think we've gone through all of the essential elements of the pen, exterior and interior. So what we'll do next is we'll do some comparisons. And I've got a bunch of pens to compare it to. So stay tuned. Okay, so I've got some beautiful pens here, folks, to compare it with. Some people say, why don't you compare it to the Safari? I just don't think that I should put this pen next to a Lamy Safari, with all due respect. And I'm not being elitist there. I think I should compare it to some of these other gems. Okay, you've got the Visconti Homo Sapiens, you've got the Mag 600, you've got the Pelican M1000, the Scribble La Dotta. Here's the subject pen. Here is a Visconti, and this is a Van Gogh. Then you have a Gioia Partenope. You've got the Mont Blanc Solitaire, which is essentially a 146, and the Mont Blanc 149. So you could see that the pen is, in terms of length, quite the smallest one of the gang here. It kind of equals the Partenope, which, when you look at it on its own, appears to be a big pen, just the way it's shaped. But this one just gives you the impression that it's smaller, but it isn't. It is almost the equivalent. Okay, so some of these pens I've chosen because of their soft nibs. We're going to take a look at of course, the Mag 600. It's got a very, very soft gusher. Same thing with the it's flex. The Pelican is not a flex, but let me tell you, I've got a broad and woof, on the M1000 with that big juicy nib. Let me tell you, very soft. This Scribo flex nib is also very, very, very soft nib. So there you have it. I did want to show you the comparison with the Visconti in terms of the way it latches. They're really, I just don't like the mechanism on this Van Gogh when I compare it to, in fact, I think I chose the wrong pen. I shouldn't be comparing it to the Van Gogh. I should be comparing it, just give me a second. I should be comparing it more with the Rembrandt. The Rembrandt has that, but it doesn't have the same, the same strength, I guess. I guess maybe my magnet is no longer magnetized. I like the clip compared to this one. This one just got such a very nice spring to it. Really, really, really tight. Then, of course, you got the Homo sapien, which has a completely different mechanism. This is kind of a turn, twist, and put in place and twist and out. And it's got kind of a springy mechanism. But you know what? I really like the mechanism on that Pineider. So there you have it. So those are the pens capped. And let's take a look at them uncapped. Okay, so here are the pens uncapped and unposted. And compared to the subject pen, you can see the subject pen still amongst the smallest. It's almost the equivalent of my Rembrandt, my Van Gogh. Joya just a tiny bit, just a few, maybe a millimeter or two. It's bigger than my Solitaire, my 146 Solitaire here at Mont Blanc, but it's smaller than the other pens, which are, huge pens by definition. So just slightly bigger or smaller than my Visconti, if you will. And of course, you've got gold nib, steel, gold, 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 and gold. There you have it. So those are the pens uncapped and unposted. We'll be right back with the pens posted. Here are the pens posted. Of course, they have removed these two from the equations because they just don't post. And you can see that even posted, the Pineider is amongst the smallest, although it overshadows slightly my Mont Blanc here. Almost the equivalent of my Rembrandt, but not quite. Almost the equivalent of my Visconti, but not quite. So it is a little smaller. But having said that, of course, everything is relative, because when you put it in your hands, it's more than sufficient. In fact, one would argue even a little too big. So there are the pens posted. We'll put up some measurements, and then we're going to have some fun with that quill nib. Some writing samples, some comparisons, and I want to show you why that nib is so special. Be right back. So we're back finally for that writing sample. Now, first thing I wanted to mention is the ink I've put in that pen is the Scribo fountain pen ink, Verde Mediterraneo, so green Mediterranean or Mediterranean green from Scribo. This ink has a beautiful green, dark green color. You can't really see it. The camera shows it kind of a turquoise, but it isn't. It's more of a teal green, but it has beautiful red sheen. I think this is more indicative of the color, if you will. So there you have it. The paper I'm using, this is my Manufactus notebook, where I've replaced the actual notebook inside with Tomo River Namiki paper notebook called The Writer, which I recommend so much, and I keep repeating it because it's a really nice writer. Okay, so let's first take a look at the subject pen and see how this thing writes. So this is the Pineider La Grande Bellezza, which, as you know, is a homage to the Italian film The Great Beauty. Okay, La Grande Bellezza, and it's in the GEMSTONE collection. The nib is the Pineider 14 karat medium quill nib. The ink, guys, you know, the experience is an ultimate experience. The ink is the Scribo green Mediterranean, or Mediterranean green. And I don't know if you guys can see it, but see that springiness here? It's so soft that it does give you line variation. Now, you don't see a lot of it because it is a medium as opposed to a fine. So you don't appreciate the flexy part of this nib as much. Oh, that's me. As you could see, it's soft no matter what direction, perfectly tuned. I mean, there is absolutely no direction where this nib doesn't write. Okay? Fast writing. Yeah, I mean, not a problem. Reverse writing. I don't know why I do this. Yeah, it gives you a nice, I would say, an extra fine line, and it keeps going. So for those of you who care about that, I'm not going to do a like and dislike here. There's nothing that I dislike about this pen. Okay, I mean, folks, you know, the design, the build quality, the materials that are being used, you know, the finials, the band, the clip, the fact that it has a seal, you know, beautiful nib, the section, even though it's steel with that flare, it posts nicely. It is a cartridge converter, which some would argue is better than a vacuum and a piston filler, because it's easier to manage and clean. It's got nice weight. It's got nice heft. Just perfect balance. So, folks, there's nothing wrong with this pen. Okay, and this one with the medium and the price I paid, because the price would have been a major consideration had it been 400, 500, 600, 700, as one sees on the internet. But I paid this one $250, $270. So you know what? Even the price. And even though it's soft, I would argue that it's still very, it is a go-to pen. And by go-to, I mean like everyday use. Yeah, 10 on 10. You could write much smaller if you wish, unlike some of the flex nibs, because they're very difficult to get that smaller writing. This one you can. Okay. Yes, it's a medium, and with that juicy nib, almost a broad. Okay. So there is that element. So you're not. But if we get it, obviously, if you get an extra fine and fine, it becomes a different writing experience. And you know what? I'm still hunting. If I can find one at extra fine and fine at a reasonable price, I will get it. And in terms of feel, I compare it quite a bit to this Pelikan, okay, M1000. This is the Pelikan. It's not quite as bouncy, but just as soft and wet. Okay, it's a gusher. I mean, this and when I compare it, just in terms of feel, very similar. Now, this is a medium, and my Pelikan is, in fact, a broad. But in terms of feel, it is slightly softer and slightly bouncier than my Pelikan M1000. So for those of you who do own a Pelikan M1000, that gives you a good idea. When I compare it to my Mag 600, and forgive me, I haven't tried this in a while. It might not start. Yeah. Well, here we go. I mean, this is a very different writing experience. Just because this writes more like this is really, really springy. Okay. But again, this one is softer, whereas this one is flexier. I don't know and by soft, I mean, it kind of lands and it just glides. This one, the Mag 600, I don't know if you could hear it. Has some tooth to it. But when I compare it to my Pineider, very, very silent and soft. What about comparing it to my Scribo? And you'll forgive me, I should have tested these pens before I came on the air, but let's just see. Yeah. That's me. Very similar feel to the Scribo. The Scribo's also got nice bounce. And let's not forget that this is, in fact, a fine. Is it a fine or a medium? Hold on. I can't see it. But I believe it's a fine. Yeah, it's a fine. This one's a fine, so I would imagine that the fine in this pen would give me a similar experience. I would say to you that right now, these four pens, let me just get up. These four pens represent, for me anyway, the softest nibs that I have right now in my collection. I mean, I do have the Visconti, which is very nice, by the way. Very soft, but not as soft as that. It's got some spring to it, but not nearly as much. The other pen that I think I can compare it to, and just give me a second. Sorry about that. Be back. I guess would be my Santini. And I haven't written to this in a while, but which has his flexi stub. A little more tooth from the Santini. I haven't written it in a little while. So, you know, but it has that softness. So I would add that in terms of being soft. And if one has to look at soft, of course, this Waterman Vintage is quite soft. It's got no ink. But soft nib, but very, very pointy and very scratchy, sort of a softness. I guess the other soft nib that I would have in my collection would be this Pelican M140. And even then, yeah, it's got some tooth to it when you compare it to these pens here. So very, very soft. Can you compare it to the fountain pen Revolution that I've put in this pen? Not really. The fountain pen PR Pen Revolution nibs are springy, but they're flex nibs. They don't have that softness, if you will, that these other pens have. So there you have it. I don't know if I kind of, you know, got you to bite. I gotta tell you, this pen is an absolute gem. I mean, talk about fountain pen therapy, okay? When you want to sit down and write something in your journal and you feel this softness of this nib, outstanding. Now, I know a lot of you will write to me, you haven't tried the Pilot 743 with the FA 15, number 15 nib, and others will say, well, Don, you should get the FA 10 nib, it's softer. You know, on the 912 or on the 742, gonna get all that. They're on their way, and then maybe I'll do another comparison and see whether or not Pilot beats this. I got a feeling it doesn't have the softness of this nib. That's just my feeling, but what do I know? I haven't tried them yet, right? So, ragazzi, I hope you enjoyed that. Beautiful pen. Go on eBay if you can find it for $250, and I think that's Canadian. So American, even less. Snap it up right away. Do what you need to do. Yes, it's a medium, but you'll love it. Unless you're an extra fine and absolutely fine fanatic, and you don't want to move from that, then don't touch it, because it's very wet. It's a gusher. You're not going to enjoy it. But if you like that smooth medium line going on broad, very wet, and it's a gusher, and it just flows like as if you're writing on water, I recommend it. I really recommend it. Save up, and you know what? Forget about the Chinese pens for now. Don't buy 2 or 3. Buy that Pineider. That's my recommendation, folks. If you want some therapy, it's there for sure. Ragazzi, grazie molto. Fate bravi, fate bravi, fate bravi. It's autumn. Playing my last golf games until the end at the end of October. Hopefully the weather will cooperate and we get some golf in the month of November. Beautiful autumn days lately. Last week in Montreal has been absolutely gorgeous. Cool, 20, 21 degrees, sunny. That's perfect golf weather, folks. So I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can before fountain pen therapy will replace the golf therapy. There you go. After that, it's the bike or the stationary bike and the gym. You know, not much excitement there, but, you know, it's part of the course, right? Take care, folks. Be good. Subscribe, comment. If you like it, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. Whatever it is, I accept. Thank you. Bye now.